Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another game of CasualCraft with me, your host RedRipz, and I'm here today with the blue Zerg player, Edraxima, in the bottom left hand corner, and in the top right hand corner we have the red Terran player, NoobIsMyName. These players are both diamond players, and hopefully we'll see a good game out of them today. After my first cast yesterday, I was feeling pretty good, so I thought I'd just give it another cast today and see where I can take it. So we'll start off with nothing too complicated. Both players just droning and SCVing up as they like to. I'm actually just going to remove that toggle replay timer thing there. I've once again forgotten that I've accidentally showed you how long this video is, but never mind. It'll be absolutely fine. And we're seeing the usual sort of things out of these players. We're seeing an Overlord coming down as per usual is Zerg players at this stage of the game. We're getting out the old supply depot here, and everything's looking pretty standard at this stage of the game. We'll see if either player decides to take anything out of the ordinary, or if it's going to be a normal straight up macro game here. At this stage, as I say, we're not particularly seeing anything interesting. We have a scout probe leaving the base now for the Zerg player, Edraxima. He should be able to see some information with this, whether the Terran player is doing anything specific or interesting. He's not scouting out of his way for anything particular, so at this stage of the game it doesn't look like he's looking for any racks or anything. He's basically just having a look and seeing what's going on at the Terran's base. Meanwhile, up at the Terran base, the Terran has finished his first supply depot, and we've got a barracks down now, so this isn't going to be any kind of early cheesy sort of pressure by the look of it, just based on the fact that he's not tried to proxy it or anything like that. As a result, I reckon really this is some sort of two-base build out of this, but we'll see where it goes. Typical Terrans usually seems to be all about the Hellbats these days, but we will see. Meanwhile, at the Zerg base, we've got a second come down from the Zerg player. He's gone hatchery first. This usually is followed by a spawning pool, which we should see any time now. On top of that, we're continuing droning up, and we have continued scouting from the Zerg player. The Terran hasn't actually scouted anything at the moment, but I imagine he's got a pretty good guess of what's going on. Typically, you get Zerg players just expand. They like to macro, unless you get some sort of early cheese, which would actually be well on its way by now, so he should be scouting pretty soon. Yep, here we go. The Terran player's moving out now with his SCV, and he should be having a look to see, well, you see the second base. We should see the spawning pool coming down here now as well, and no gas yet from the Zerg player. Meanwhile, at the Terran base, we've got a second coming down with his first Marine out, and further Marines incoming as well. We also have the orbital command and the first mules being dropped, so the Terran's economy is really starting to take off now. Both players going for relatively dangerous, well, I say dangerous, relatively macro builds here. So that should be relatively long game, assuming we don't see any sort of early pressure out of either player. And yeah, the second base of the Zerg is now finished as well. We're seeing both queens come out as the spawning pool has finished in perfect harmony. No gas yet, so we're not seeing any sort of early speed or anything like that. This suggests that the Zerg will probably be going very, very economy, probably take a third before too long. It wouldn't surprise me. The SCV's now is heading back to the Terran's base. He's, I think he will have seen everything in here. Yes, he's seen the pool. He hasn't seen the pool finish, and he's seen the hatchery finishing up as well. Meanwhile, the Overlords are being taken down. Oh, no, sorry, not the Overlord. The rocks in the Terran's second are being removed. This map actually is pretty good for Terrans, I think, because there's actually a surprisingly thin wall off at the second here, and you can essentially just sit tanks up on the high ground up here and sit behind a nice wall off here without any real sort of difficulty. There's only takes 2 or 3 buildings to wall that off, which compared to some maps is quite a light wall off. We're starting to see SCVs coming out the second, also a command centre. Meanwhile, we're seeing the first Zerglings move up the map from the Zerg player, and more queens coming out. We're looking like we're getting a 4-queen build here out of the Zerg player. This is typically, again, as I say, quite macro orientated, very, very defensive. Against any sorts of early pressure. Often you used to see quite a lot of Hellions coming out early game from Terrans, and a lot of queens are very good at stopping that. So we've seen more queens coming down, and with that in mind, we're chasing Zerglings out of the second. The Zerglings are trying to find out what's going on here, but they're not going to get very far with this many Marines on the ground at this stage. Both players notably have all the skins and stuff, so they're obviously well versed in their own races, which should be pretty obvious at Diamond League, but it's just interesting to note. And further on that, we're seeing SCVs coming out at the Terran's second base now, and also 2 gas down in the main. He's got his tech lab down, he's started up stim. We're seeing reactors coming out, so he should be pumping quite a lot of stim marines out at this stage. We're also seeing supply depots coming down. He's just generally making his way forward with the game, and finally now a factory. So this should be an advancement of the Terran's plane. Meanwhile, at the Zerg's third base, we've got a third come down for Edraxima here. He's maintaining his drone. Droning, and yeah, well, let's have a look to see what the scores are like. At the minute, he's ahead on drones. This isn't surprising. However, there are mules out for the Terran, so there's no real economy advantage for either player. Both players just playing as they are. The Zerg player has got a lot of queens, notably now. He's actually up to 6 queens, I believe. Yeah, 6 queens. This is quite a lot, actually. You don't often see quite as many queens. It was quite popular for a while, but the mass queens thing is well, it's very sort of flavour of the monthly. I find it tends to be quite gimmicky and it isn't overly popular. Although we might see something different out of it here. We're very much waiting on to see what the players are up to at this stage. We're seeing speed coming down now out the Zerg player. We're getting further reactors on the factories, and we're getting a starport out as well. Now this means we probably won't be seeing any sort of mech play, especially we've got sort of 3 racks out now. It looks like he's basically just going straight for what looks like Hellions or Widow Mines, because he's getting the reactor down, and probably sort of Bio Ball, usual kind of combination there. Now we've got Mass Marine out as well. Zergling's just watching the front here. We've got Overlords all over the map from Edraxima, so the vision is pretty good. So if anything does decide to move out here, which as we are going to see, NoobIsMyName is just taking that little ling out there. The Zerg player should be relatively well aware of it. This high ground position, especially from the Overlord here, is particularly useful. Of course, because it's on high ground, it can't be seen by the Terran, but at the same time, it can get quite a lot of scouting information. Unfortunately, on this map, you can't actually see whether the Terran's taken any extra gases, but it's not really that much of an issue at this stage. The Terran's still on 2 bases. That's what's important. That's what he needs to know. And the Terran is continuing to mass Marines. He's also getting Marauders out now. There's also Medivacs coming in, and we're starting to see a few Hellbats coming out of the factory here. I'd actually didn't realise that you could get Hellbats without a tech lab. I thought they were tech lab units. Never mind, Ross. We'll go with it. You learn something new every day. It's why I'm casting these games. It's why I'm here. So yeah, we're going to see that. First upgrade's coming down now from the Zerg player. He's going melee attacks first with a Carapace. This is usually quite a later game sort of thing. It means that basically because he's not going for the ranged attack upgrade, he's probably not going to be using anything like Roaches or Hydras or any sort of ranged units like that, or at least not for too long if he is. He's going straight for the melee upgrades, which is typically significant of builds including late game Ultras or Broodlords or anything like that. So we'll see some sort of Ling Baneling army, which he's sat here at the front, as I said. And obviously mass creep spread here. This Zerg player is really putting in the effort for his creep. He's got so many queens out. It's actually quite impressive here. Meanwhile, his third base is completely up. We're seeing spines down at the third, and also at the second actually now, and a spore crawlers as well. The Terran has made a massive move out, of course, here. So we'll be seeing how this goes. He accidentally sent a medivac in ahead of the pack there. That was nearly lost to a queen, which would have been really unfortunate considering he's got 2 medivacs. This is an incredibly strong push out of the Terran. The Hellbats especially are going to be particularly strong against the moves of the Zerg player. So we'll be watching now to see how the Zerg player Edraxima deals with this. And we've got NoobIsMyName now heading directly towards the second base of the Zerg player Edraxima, and we're not going to really see much of a defence here at this stage. We've got quite a lot of Banelings and Lings out, but there's not much they can really do at this point to stop this kind of response, just surely because of the massive amount of numbers. And here we are now. We're seeing the attack move. Oof, sugar! I've just completely missed the attack. Seeing the attack move in. Let's see if the Banelings can get any sort of. Oh, there we have it. Massive connection there on the Banelings, and so many Marines went down. This is absolute chaos. However, it does look like NoobIsMyName will be coming out on top here. He has 3 medivacs left and a whole bunch of Marines plus Marauders, as well as 2 Hellbats now at the front. And the attack has been fended off, although not entirely. We're going to have to see a lot more work out the Zerg player here to see any real sort of improvement, as the Terran is currently up on 18 supply ahead of him and advancing. Now, at the Terran attacking the third base here of the Terrans attacking the third base of Edraxima here, and we're seeing some sort of Lings coming in to try and stop this, but they're just being wasted at this stage, really. We really need to get an army together and take it in all at once rather than just trying to go in piecemeal, and otherwise you just see it just dies out, as most of the army did there. The Medivacs are so good at keeping individual Marines alive against small numbers of Lings. However, the Banelings do come in and connect, and it's now been cleaned up at long last, so the Terrans should hopefully be withdrawing for the sake of the Zerg here. Meanwhile, though, of course, more Marines are being rallied down. They are being pulled back after that, and we're not really seeing much else at the time. So let's have a look back at the bases. We're seeing more Hellbats coming out, we're seeing more Marines, we've got engineering bays coming down from the Terran. He's generally teching up, building more racks. He's up to 6 barracks now, with double engineering bay coming down. We've got a spare command centre, we've got armoury at the back. This could be significant. We will see what we get out of that. We've got double medivacs down, and everything's looking pretty strong. We've got an absolute metric fuck ton of SCVs on this base, though. I'll be waiting for the Terran player here to expand beyond this point, as that is actually, frankly, a crazy number of SCVs on one base. I'd imagine he will be going for a third relatively soon, though, seeing as he's lifted off his commands. He's able to command now at the top to head up for the third base, which has actually been blocked by a Ling, although he doesn't have burrow, so he can't burrow and cause more pain in the arse that way. Meanwhile, there's a spare little Marine stood here at the gold base, as I think has been pointed out by Edraxima, who is meanwhile sitting outside I guess the third base of NoobIsMyName, although Noob is actually taking the top base here instead, in favour of well, I guess this might be slightly easier to defend from this position as a Terran, especially as you can just lift up in your medivacs. Meanwhile, the Zerg player is building his roaches now. We're seeing continued upgrades, Zerg melee, Zerg ground carapace 2. We're also seeing glial reconstruction for the roaches so that they have speed. This should provide extra sort of bolstering the health of the Zerg player's army to allow them to deal with the Hellbats way more efficiently, as Zerglings just die to Hellbats, just straight up just die. Roaches aren't much better, but they have a lot more health, and they also take up a lot more ground space, which means that they don't die quite as badly to AoE attacks. And we're seeing a move out now from Edraxima, and NoobIsMyName here is going to move straight into defend this with very, very little difficulty. The Banelings really struggling to get through here, although it looks like they're going to be pulling through. Not much of a split, if any, from the Terran. However, he's completely cleared up that initial assault there, despite the Zerg's Baneling advantage, and it does look like the Terran is just going to stomp all over this assault. There's really not much left here going on. We've got more medivacs coming out, we've got continued upgrades, and we're looking at vehicle upgrades as well. We're seeing more Hellbats, we're seeing continued, and we're seeing another command centre now, so I would imagine this will be going down for a fourth base, either that or it's going to be used as an extra orbital command to bolster the number of mules that are in use on the ground. And now we're seeing the NoobIsMyName move up to the third base once again of Edraxima, who's going to really struggle to defend this at this stage of the game. He doesn't really have anything out. He's building Lings, he's building Zerglings, Banelings, he's doing everything that he can, but I really can't see how he's going to be able to stop this with such a small number of Lings, or especially with the Terran splitting like that. He pulled back, and that is it. This is, yep, GG. Good game, guys. Well played once again, and that was very much a game for the Terran player there. The Zerg had very little luck with his advances, and the Terran essentially just successfully defended what little he had and took out thirds way too often for the Zerg player to remain in the game. Essentially, at this stage of the game, the Zerg player was so far behind because he couldn't get that third economy up, whereas the Terran can much more efficiently use a double economy. As a Zerg player, you typically want to be a base ahead of your opponent, and with the Terran with this strong a third base down and a fourth one on the way, there's really very little that Mobius could have hoped to have done there. However, this is the end of the game, so it's an end of the CasualCraft with me, RedRipz, and like, comment, subscribe, all the usual crack. Let me know what you like, let me know what you don't like. I'm continuing trying to improve, as I say. Hopefully I've been clear, there's been plenty of light so you can see my pretty face here in the corner this time, and all this kind of thing. And I've got to stop umming and ahhing as well, another thing. Anyway, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you once again for watching.